Hey guys, welcome back. It's Ripe again, back with more relationship stories. In this video, my insane mother-in-law demands I give her my daughter after my wife passed away. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. And the title XXL Mega Story starts like this. It has been just over a year since I lost Sarah, my wife and best friend of 15 years. The pain of her sudden death in that awful car accident still feels raw some days, but I've had to stay strong for our daughter Lily, who just turned 5 last month. Lily is the spitting image of her mother, the same honey blonde curls, same bright blue eyes that light up when she laughs. She is all I have left of Sarah now. I won't pretend it's been easy adjusting to life as a single dad. There have been plenty of sleepless nights, moments of overwhelming grief and self-doubt, but Lily and I are muddling through together, creating our new normal one day at a time. I've thrown myself into being the best father I can be, making sure Lily feels loved and secure despite the huge loss we've both suffered. Which is why my mother-in-law, Barbara's recent behavior, has me at my wit's end. She has always been a bit of a difficult personality, prone to criticism and dramatics, but lately she has escalated to making wild accusations about my parenting and even trying to claim custody of Lily. It's like she lost touch with reality in her grief. I still remember the first time Barbara really crossed the line. It was about 6 months after Sarah passed away. I was picking Lily up from a weekend stay at her grandma's house. As soon as I walked in the door, I could tell something was off. Barbara had a strange manic glint in her eye as she ushered me into the living room. "Jeff, we need to talk about Lily's future," she said in a clipped tone. I sighed, already dreading where this was going. "What is this about, Barb? Lily and I are doing fine. We are healing and adjusting as best as we can." Barbara's face twisted into a sneer. "Oh, please. You call this fine? That child needs a mother, not some clueless man fumbling his way through parenting." I felt my hackles rising but tried to stay calm. "I know it's not ideal, but I'm doing everything I can to give Lily a loving, stable home. Sarah would want—" "Don't you dare presume to know what my daughter would want!" Barbara snapped, cutting me off. "If Sarah were here, she'd be horrified at how you're raising Lily. The child looks unkempt half the time. Her hair is always a mess, and don't think I haven't noticed how often you rely on frozen meals and takeout." I took a deep breath, reminding myself that Barbara was still grieving too. "Look, I know I'm not perfect, I'm learning as I go, but Lily is happy, healthy, and well cared for. And honestly, that's what matters." Barbara stood up suddenly, her eyes flashing. "Well, I've made a decision. I think it's best if Lily comes to live with me full-time. You're clearly not cut out for this single-parent thing." I stared at her in disbelief. "You can't be serious. Lily's home is with me. I'm her father." "A father who's in over his head," Barbara shot back. "Face it, Jeff, you're not equipped to raise a little girl on your own. Lily needs a woman's touch, a mother figure. I can give her that." I felt a surge of anger but forced myself to stay calm. I said, "I appreciate that you want to help Barbara, but Lily is not going anywhere. This is her home where all her memories of Sarah are. I won't uproot her." Barbara's face turned an alarming shade of red and said, "This is not a request, Jeff. I'm telling you how it's gonna be. If you won't see reason, I'll go to the courts and fight for custody myself." At that point, Lily came bounding into the room, oblivious to the tension. "Daddy, you're here!" She ran to hug me, and I scooped her up, holding her close. "Hey Pumpkin, did you have fun with Grandma?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Uh-huh. We baked cookies and watched princess movies." I smiled at her and then turned back to Barbara with a pointed look. "Well, it sounds like you two had a nice visit, but it's time for us to head home now. Say goodbye to Grandma, Lily." Barbara's eyes narrowed, but she plastered on a smile for Lily's sake. "Goodbye, sweetheart. Remember, you're always welcome to stay with Grandma, anytime." As we headed out to the car, I could feel Barbara's glare boring into my back. I knew this confrontation was far from over. Over the next few months, Barbara's campaign to undermine my parenting and claim custody of Lily intensified. She started showing up unannounced at our house, often with bags of new clothes or toys for Lily. "I noticed Lily's shoes were looking a bit worn," she would say with faux concern, "so I picked her up some new ones, along with a few outfits. Lord knows, the child needs them." Or she would bring over Tupperware containers full of home-cooked meals. Which, by the way, I wouldn't mind. Anyway, I worry about Lily getting proper nutrition. Growing girls need more than pizza and chicken nuggets, you know? Each visit was punctuated with snide comments about the state of the house, Lily's appearance, or my parenting choices. Seriously, it was death by 1,000 cuts, every criticism chipping away at my confidence as a father. I tried setting boundaries, limiting Barbara's visits to scheduled times, but she would just show up anyway, guilt-tripping me if I didn't let her in. I drove all this way to see my only grandchild. Are you really gonna turn me away? Things came to a head about 2 weeks ago. I had taken a few days off work to take Lily to Disneyland for her 5th birthday. It was our first real vacation since losing Sarah. And obviously, I wanted to make it special for Lily. We had an amazing time. Lily was over the moon meeting all the princesses and going on rides, but when we got home, Barbara was waiting on our doorstep, absolutely livid. "Where have you been?" she demanded as soon as we pulled up. "I've been calling for days." I helped Lily out of the car, grabbing our suitcases. We were at Disneyland for Lily's birthday. Remember? I told you we'd be gone this week. Barbara's nostrils flared. "You took her to Disneyland without telling me? I'm her grandmother, I should have been included." I sighed, too tired from the trip to argue. It was just a father-daughter trip, Barb. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we need to get unpacked." But Barbara followed us inside, ranting the whole way. "I cannot believe how selfish you are being, Jeff, keeping Lily from her family like this, and dragging her to some overpriced amusement park, as if that is what she really needs right now." I sent Lily to her room to unpack, not wanting her to witness another blow-up, and then I turned to face Barbara. "That's enough. Lily had a wonderful time. It was good for both of us to make some happy new memories together." "Oh please," Barbara scoffed. "You're not fooling anyone. I know, you're struggling as a single parent. It's obvious you cannot handle raising Lily on your own. Why won't you just admit it and let me take over?" I felt my patience wearing dangerously thin. "For the last time, Barbara, Lily is not gonna live with you. I'm her father. This is her home. End of discussion." Barbara's face contorted with rage. "This is all your fault, you know. If you had been a better husband, a better driver, Sarah would still be alive. You took my daughter from me and now you're keeping me from my granddaughter too." Her words hit me like a physical blow. I had blamed myself for Sarah's death countless times in those dark early days of grief. Even though I knew logically that the accident was not my fault, the other driver had run a red light and plowed into us, a small part of me still felt guilty for not somehow preventing it. But hearing Barbara throw that in my face snapped something in me. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get out of my house right now before I call the police." Barbara's eyes widened in shock, like she couldn't believe that I was standing up to her, and then her expression hardened. "This is not over," she hissed as she stormed out. "Mark my words, I'll make sure Lily is taken away from you. You will see that I'm right. You're an unfit parent and you don't deserve to have her." I slammed the door behind her, my hands shaking. What I didn't realize then was that Barbara's threat was not just empty words. She was deadly serious about trying to take Lily away from me. And things were about to get much worse. Over the next weeks, Barbara's behavior grew increasingly erratic and concerning. She started calling Lily's school and daycare, trying to get information about her schedule and activities. When they refused to give out details to anyone but me, Barbara apparently threw a fit, screaming about her rights as a grandmother. She also ramped up her unannounced visits, sometimes showing up multiple times a day. If I was not home, she would sit in her car outside the house for hours, watching and waiting. My neighbors started calling to ask if everything was okay, saying they were worried about the unstable-looking woman lurking around. I documented every incident, saving voicemails and emails from Barbara, and I even set up security cameras around the house just in case. Part of me felt guilty for taking such extreme measures against my late wife's mother, but Lily's safety and well-being had to come first. Still, I was not prepared for what happened next. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I had just picked Lily up from school and we were heading to the park to enjoy the nice weather. As I was buckling Lily into her car seat, I heard tires screeching behind me. I turned to see Barbara's car coming into the school parking lot. Before I could even react, Barbara leaped out and rushed towards her. "Lily, come to Grandma, sweetheart," she called out. "Grandma!" Lily squealed excitedly, not sensing anything amiss. I quickly shut Lily's door and stepped in front of Barbara. "What are you doing here? You cannot just show up like this." Barbara tried to shove past me. "I'm taking Lily home with me. She belongs with family, not you." "Stop it, Barbara," I said firmly, blocking her path. "You're not thinking clearly. Lily is perfectly safe and happy with me. Please, let's talk about this rationally." But Barbara was beyond reason at this point. Her eyes had a wild manic look as she lunged at me, clawing and hitting. "Give me my grandbaby!" she shrieked. I grappled with her, trying to restrain her without hurting her. "Barbara, stop, you're scaring Lily!" And indeed, I could hear Lily starting to cry in confusion and fear from inside the car. The commotion had drawn the attention of other parents and school staff. Someone must have called 911 because I soon heard sirens approaching. Barbara kept fighting and screaming, completely unhinged. She managed to break free of my grip and ran to the car, yanking on the door handle. Thank God I had the foresight to lock it. "Grandma, us here, Lily, Barbara yelled through the window. Don't worry, I'm gonna save you from your awful daddy. Lily was full on sobbing now, curled up in her car seat. The sight of my daughter, so terrified, broke my heart and filled me with rage. This had gone too far. Thankfully, 2 police cruisers pulled up then. The officers quickly assessed the situation and restrained Barbara, who was still ranting and struggling. He's trying to kidnap my granddaughter, Barbara screeched, pointing at me. Arrest him, he's an unfit parent. One of the officers approached me as his partner dealt with Barbara. Sir, can you tell me what's going on here? I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. That's my mother-in-law. My wife passed away last year and she's been unstable since then. She's been harassing us, showing up uninvited, and now she tried to take my daughter. The officer nodded sympathetically. I'm very sorry for your loss, sir. We'll need to get statements from you and any witnesses. Is your daughter okay? I glanced back at the car where Lily was still crying. She's shaken up but physically fine. Can I please comfort her while you deal with my mother-in-law? Of course, the officer said. We'll probably need to take your mother-in-law in for a psych evaluation based on her current state. Do you want to press charges for attempted kidnapping? I hesitated, conflicted. Barbara clearly needed help, not jail, but I also needed to protect Lily. I'm not sure, I admitted. Can I think about it and let you know? The officer nodded and said, absolutely, for now, we'll take her in to be evaluated. Here's my car. Give me a call once you've had some time to process everything. I thanked him and hurried to comfort Lily while the police dealt with Barbara. It took a while to calm her down, reassuring her that everything was okay and Grandma was just feeling sick. Once Lily was settled, I gave my statement to the police. Several witnesses corroborated my account of Barbara's unhinged behavior. The officer said they'd be in touch once Barbara had been evaluated and encouraged me to file for an order of protection. That night, after finally getting an exhausted Lily to sleep, I sat down to really process everything that had happened. My hands shook as the adrenaline wore off and the reality of the situation sunk in. Barbara had tried to kidnap my daughter. The woman I had once considered family had become so unbalanced that she was now a threat to Lily's safety and well-being. As much as it pained me, I knew what I had to do to protect my little girl. The next morning I called the officer handling the case and told him I wanted to press charges for attempted kidnapping. I also reached out to a lawyer to start the process of getting a restraining order against Barbara. The following weeks were a whirlwind of police interviews, court appearances and meetings with social workers. Barbara was charged with attempted kidnapping and held for psychiatric evaluation. She was eventually diagnosed with complicated grief disorder and ordered to undergo intensive therapy. Meanwhile, I was also granted an emergency protective order keeping Barbara away from Lily and me. It was a difficult, emotionally draining process. Part of me felt guilty for taking such harsh legal action against my late wife's mother. I knew Sarah would be heartbroken to see her family torn apart like this, but I had to remind myself that Barbara's behavior had left me no choice. Lily's safety and well-being had to come first. Lily struggled to understand why she couldn't see Grandma anymore. I did my best to explain in age-appropriate terms that Grandma was sick and needed special doctors to help her feel better. We started Lily in play therapy to help her process everything that had happened. Gradually, life began to settle into a new normal. With Barbara out of the picture, the constant stress and tension I'd been living under started to lift. I could focus on being present for Lily without always looking over my shoulder. About 2 months after the kidnapping incident, I got a call from Barbara's psychiatrist. She was making good progress in treatment and wanted to apologize to me. Did I feel comfortable meeting with her in a supervised setting? I was hesitant at first, but after discussing it with my therapist and lawyer, I agreed to a short supervised visit. When I walked into the hospital meeting room, I hardly recognized Barbara. Gone was the wild-eyed manic woman who had tried to snatch Lily. She looked small and frail, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. "Jeff," she said softly as I sat down across from her. "I'm so sorry. I don't even know where to begin." I nodded stiffly, unsure what to say. Barbara took a shaky breath and continued, "I know I can never undo the harm I've caused to you, to Lily, to our whole family. Losing Sarah broke something in me. I could not bear the thought of losing Lily too. But instead of supporting you both, I let my grief turn myself into this monster." Tears streamed down Barbara's face. "I convinced myself that you were the enemy, that taking Lily was the right thing to do. I see how sick and delusional I was. Jeff, can you ever forgive me?" I felt a lump form in my throat. Barbara, I won't lie. What you did was incredibly hurtful and traumatizing for both me and Lily. It's gonna take a long time to rebuild trust if that's even possible. Barbara nodded, wiping at her tears. I understand. I don't expect forgiveness, certainly not right away. I just want you to know how deeply sorry I am. And I want to do whatever it takes to make amends, even if that means staying away permanently. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Look, I appreciate your apology, I really do, and I'm glad you're getting help, but my priority now has to be Lily's well-being. She was terrified by what happened. It's going to take time for her to feel safe again. Of course, Barbara quickly said. Lily comes first, always. Is there any chance I might be able to see her someday, even if it's years from now? I considered carefully before answering. I cannot make any promises right now, Barbara, but if you continue with treatment and respect our boundaries, maybe someday we can revisit supervised visits. For now though, I need you to understand that a restraining order stays in place. Barbara nodded solemnly. I understand. Thank you for even being willing to talk to me today. I know I don't deserve it after everything I've done. As I left the meeting, I felt a mix of emotions, sadness for the family bonds that had been broken, cautious hope that Barbara was truly changing, but also resolve to keep protecting Lily no matter what. Over the next year, Barbara continued intensive therapy. I appreciated that Barbara seemed to be taking her treatment seriously and was not trying to pressure me about seeing Lily. Lily and I settled into our new normal. The nightmares and anxiety she had experienced after the kidnapping attempt gradually faded. We kept up with her play therapy, which really seemed to help her process her emotions in a healthy way. I focused on creating happy new memories with Lily, movie nights cuddled up on the couch, messy baking adventures in the kitchen, trips to the zoo and science museum. Slowly but surely, the shadow Barbara's action had cast over our lives began to recede. About 14 months after the incident, I got a letter from Barbara. Her therapist had encouraged her to write it as part of her treatment, but stressed that it was my choice whether to read it or not. After some deliberation, I decided to open it. The letter was long and heartfelt. Barbara took full responsibility for her actions, acknowledging how wrong and harmful they were. She talked about the work she had been doing in therapy to process her grief in healthier ways. She expressed deep remorse for traumatizing Lily and trying to come between us. What struck me the most was that Barbara did not ask for anything or try to make excuses. She simply wanted me to know how sorry she was and that she was committed to changing. The letter ended by saying that she would respect whatever boundaries I felt were necessary to keep Lily safe, even if that meant never seeing us again. And here, ripe stars, unfortunately, or rather fortunately, that is how the story ended, and it seemed like the situation really turned around for OP and Lily, and Barbara seems to be doing better nowadays as well. Let me know what you think about these incredibly long XXL stories, and do you think that OP acted appropriately in this story? Let me know what you would have done in the comments. And the last one is also a neighbor story from r/askreddit. So this actually is my parents' story, but they don't do Reddit, so here you go. My parents live on a single-lane dirt road about a mile back into the woods. It was originally strip mining ground that my grandfather owned and passed down. There are 4 houses on said road that all belonged at one point in time to various members of our family. Now, however, after several deaths, only the 2 middle houses, my brothers and parents, remain in the family, while the first and last house were sold off to random families. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that this is a remote area, and if you are not going to one of those 4 houses, you have no business on this road. Backstory complete. So this story occurs about a year ago. The family that lives in the end house, furthest from the highway, is going through some money trouble. The bank foreclosed on their home and they moved away. Fast forward about 6 months, the house is still empty and fallen into a state of disrepair as the woods are starting to reclaim their area. It is a weekend night and my dad is out of town on business. My mom is outside boarding up our shed because there are supposed to be severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings in the area starting any minute. As the raindrops start to fall, a black car with tinted windows speeds past her, almost running her over, and down to the vacant house. In her words, a big person in a black hooded raincoat gets out of the car and starts wandering around the property. Then goes back to the car and gets out a shovel and proceeds to start digging in the corner of the yard. By this time it is raining very heavily and the person is still digging. My mom is watching out the window because she is really scared. Like I said, this is remote and you pretty much know everyone who would be there, and this person shouldn't. So this goes on for a while and the person has a huge hole dug. Then they go back to the car and pull out what my mom says looks like a body wrapped in a sheet. And then put it in the hole and start filling it in. Cue a freak out, my mom calls 911 and in about 15 minutes state police are rolling down this dirt road that is basically a mud pit at this point in numbers. So the state police surround the vehicle and have the person in the black hooded raincoat surrounded, guns drawn. This is a one-lane dead-end road, so there is no escape. They take him into custody. A few minutes later the police come and inform my mom that the person was actually the old neighbor who the bank foreclosed on. His large dog had died and he wanted to bury it in his old house. He had bought a new car with tinted windows, why my mom didn't recognize it, and did not see her outside, why he almost hit her with the car, and was too emotionally distraught to realize that digging a grave in a severe thunderstorm/tornado in a remote house that you haven't lived in for several months was a bad idea, or at the very least, poor timing. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.